Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
£54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you could spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash. So make sure that someone could be you. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Hello, good evening. It's 11 o'clock. I'm Ben Leo, and this is Ben Leo Tonight, late edition. And coming up tonight, breaking in the last hour, Nigel Farage wants to crack down on crime. The Reform UK leader announcing plans to rent prison spaces overseas in countries such as El Salvador. That's to cage Britain's most depraved murderers and paedophiles, such as Ian Huntley and Axel Rudbakana. Good idea? Also, fears for Gaza. The Sun on Sunday is reporting that England legend Paul Gascoigne was rushed to intensive care last night after being found semi-conscious at his home by a friend. More on that in just a tick. And also inside tomorrow's Sun, Lucy Letby has reportedly bonded over games of Uno with the stepmother of murdered Sarah Sharif, who's serving 33 years, with the pair spending time in each other's cells and even cooking together. Deary me, I have an idea. Maybe they could both be sent off to El Salvador. We'll be joined by US Republican commentator Jennifer Ewing tonight to discuss JD Vance's plans to holiday in the Cotswolds and the activists who have vowed to spoil it. Of course they have. Joining me this evening on the panel is political commentator Samuel Sweek, the political commentator Chloe Dobbs, and former headliner and GB News star, the comedian Paul Cox, and the Kiss Cam. I love this story, and it keeps evolving. The Kiss Cam has officially become the Coldplay Cam. Welcome along to Ben Leo Tonight, late edition. Let's go through all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages, starting with the Metro. The headline reads, "Our water torture will go on." So this is water campaigner Fergal Sharkey is warning that a landmark review of the troubled water industry, unveiled today, will fail to end a national scandal. Let's look at the Independent. The Prime Minister says that women must not face the choice of violence or the streets. This is a vow to pull every lever to halve attacks on women and girls. And I said in the last hour, I'll say it again, it's fine you saying this on one hand, saying, yeah, let's stop the attacks on women and girls, and then also importing tens of thousands of men from cultures and countries who don't share the same view. The Sun. We mentioned this at the top of the show just a second ago. Paul Gascoigne is in hospital tonight after being found semi-conscious at his home in Poole in Dorset last night. The Spurs and England great was found semi-conscious by a friend. He's only 58 still, Paul Gascoigne, so best wishes to him. We'll talk about that shortly. The Daily Express. Doctors are holding patients to ransom with their new pay demands. This is a report on the proposed new strikes from the BMA. And a nice picture there of Prince George. Big changes on the horizon, it says on the Express front page, for birthday boy George. The Guardian. This is one we'll certainly be talking about. I cannot get over this figure. It's been revealed that £27 billion is the bill for failings in England's mother and baby care units. The potential cost since 2019 is higher than the total NHS maternity budget. What a joke. The Times. Rachel Reeves set to defy the left over call for a wealth tax. She's expected the Chancellor to reject pressure from left-wing Labour MPs to implement a wealth tax after Cabinet Ministers warned it would not raise any money because wealthy people would simply leave the UK. I'm glad the Chancellor agrees with that. I mean, it's obvious to every man and his dog, except for the commies who are jealous of wealth. The Daily Mirror on Sunday, Daily Mirror. We stand with Jess. Sunday Mirror, that's the number. The third time lucky. England stars last night rallied around Jess Carter, the England women's player, after she revealed she suffered vile racist abuse at the Euros. England, by the way, and maybe we'll talk about this, has vowed not to take the knee. They said it just doesn't work anymore. The Daily Telegraph, Sunday Telegraph. Nigel Farage, I'll build more jails to clean up the streets. This is a vow from the Reform leader that if the Reform get into power, if they have a government, they will hire 30,000 more police officers within 5 years. They will hire 10,000 more, have 30,000 more prison places and deport 10,400 foreign prisoners from our jails. And the Daily Mail, the BMA's war chest to fund doctor strikes will go into the millions, causing havoc all across the NHS. And I do apologise. I, for some reason, thought it was Saturday night tonight, so that's why I've been saying the Sunday Telegraph, the Sunday Mirror. It's not. It's Sunday night, and tomorrow you're all back at work, so sorry to give you the Sunday night anxiety. It's Monday tomorrow. I'm joined by my panel, Samuel Sweet, the political commentator Chloe Dobbs, and former headliner but GB News star and comedian Paul Cox. Welcome, Paul.
Hello, Ben. How you doing?
Looking forward to Monday?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Monday. Well, they all blend into one to me. It'll be Monday by the time I get home.
Yeah, oh, will it?
It will, yeah. Oh. Well, it'll be Monday by the time we leave here.
True. Yeah, we finished at 12. True. What should we start with? Should we talk about this Guardian?
You've got to start with this Guardian story.
It's an incredible figure. £27 billion paid out because of failings in mother and baby units across England. It's just astonishing. £27 billion of NHS money.
There has to be... the more I look at this story, there has to be some endemic incompetence and negligence that's inherent with the NHS for this to be true. Either that, or people are just getting more litigious. We find ourselves in a position now, 27 billion, Ben, is a lot of money.
Oh, you're telling me?
That is a lot of money. And in order for that to be spent since 2019, which, by the way, is only 6 years ago, on essentially what is incompetence within mother and baby care within the NHS England, by the way. Yeah. This isn't even the whole of the GB. Yeah, so Scotland and Wales and Northern Ireland aren't included in these figures. Goodness only knows. Surely we have to look. I mean, following the Lucy Letby case as well, and everything else that we've learnt since then, and people being arrested on the basis that they didn't discover what she was doing prior to her arrest sooner, and many more babies died than could have done.
Yeah.
We have to look incredibly closely at this. And good on The Guardian, by the way. This is a headline in The Guardian that I can really get behind. This is a huge failing. Unless they're just paying out anyway, people are becoming more litigious, and let's assume they're not. You know, anecdotally, I hear harrowing stories from new mothers about what's happening within the NHS. People are going private all the time. So I'll be very interested to see how this pans out.
Chloe, it says here in The Guardian, hundreds of babies and women have died or suffered life-altering conditions as a result of botched care in NHS trusts in recent years, prompting the government to launch a national inquiry. And Jeremy Hunt has said it should be a matter of national shame that we now spend more on maternity litigation than the total cost of running maternity services.
So I think this is a combination of both people becoming more litigious and the NHS making more and more failings. I mean, people in the NHS, they are just super stressed, running around like headless chickens, making mistakes all the time. I know this is not maternity related, but my dad's neighbour died, sadly, far sooner than she should have done because the NHS literally starved her. She needed a drip and they kept saying, when is the nutritionist going to come to put food for it? And they said, oh, yeah, they'll be round in an hour. And it never happened. That she literally starved to death because of NHS failing. So I can see that the NHS are making a lot of mistakes. But I mean, this bill is just absolutely astonishing. I'm reading here some of the figures and it's a bit confusing, but it says NHS Resolution, which handles negligence claims for the NHS Trust in England, recorded in its most recent annual report that the cost of settling all maternity-related claims was £37.5 billion, which is part of the £60 billion total clinical negligence liabilities bill.
It's just insane.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, we were furious enough when we heard that this whole Afghan resettlement scheme is going to cost something like 7 billion quid, and then you see 37.5 billion quid, 27 billion quid, whichever figure it is. That's beyond belief. I mean, Rachel Reeves is probably going to be crying again tonight after seeing that story.
But this is mothers and babies. This is people at their most vulnerable.
Yeah. And
in order to have a bill of compensation this big, the NHS must just be tragically incompetent.
Well, we know that.
We know it is. Look, and it's very easy to sit here and say we love the NHS. I love the NHS. You know, it's a great institution. I wish it was brilliant so that everybody got brilliant healthcare. But the fact of the matter is, it's not. The more people you talk to about... The only thing I've seen great from the NHS is their cancer care. Genuinely, I've seen great cancer care from the NHS. But when it comes to mothers and babies and A&E, you know, the sort of first aid of the NHS, they seem to be failing. Now, I don't want to pin the blame on nurses and doctors because, like you rightly pointed out, these are the people that worked hard the most. You know, they're definitely not trying to be incompetent, but something is inherently terribly wrong with the NHS.
My first child was born 6 weeks early. He was in special care for 2 weeks, and the staff at the special baby care unit were amazing. They are incredible. But I will say, at a time when, I mean, the front page of the Express, doctors holding patients to ransom with pay demands, and I know doctors don't necessarily work in baby care units, but at a time when doctors and nurses are demanding more money at the same time as costing, through negligence, the NHS tens of billions of pounds in compo payouts, it does beg the question, Samuel, what the hell is going on?
Well, look, I mean, it's worth saying here, and obviously, yes, some people have had some horrendous experiences with the NHS here, and I can't take away from that. But it's worth mentioning that half of this bill, this 27 billion, is just for like the legal defence of the NHS, and actually half of these cases don't result in a payout, and that's not to take away from the experiences that some people have had. But I mean, I think again we need to come in here, and I think it's brass cheek for someone like Jeremy Hunt, who is the former health secretary, to come in, and this is a man who stripped and brought the NHS to its absolute knees. Staff in the NHS are still recovering from 14 years of Conservative government of NHS, which has brought staff to absolute breaking point. They're overstretched, overworked and under-resourced. Yeah. And, you know, this is obviously horrendous for the people impacted by it, but that's the fact of the matter, is that the Tories' damage will last in the NHS for a very, very long time.
Okie doke. Should we look at the front page of The Sun? I know we've discussed this, Chloe and Samuel, but it's a pretty big story, especially if you like football. Paul Gascoigne on Friday night was found semi-conscious at his home in Poole in Dorset by a friend. He was rushed to intensive care. He's still in an intensive care unit tonight, though he's thought to be stable. Of course, Gaz has had problems in the past with alcoholism, addiction. By his own admission, he's got some demons, which at some points he has been able to get on top of, and at other points he's fallen off the wagon. Paul, what's your thoughts on this? He's only 58, Gascoigne. He's still, in the grand scheme of things, pretty young.
Firstly, as the comedian on the panel, I'm glad to get off of the dead baby story.
Well, you've moved on to a Gaza hospitalised.
But you know, that's fair game. I'm a massive Gaza fan. I'm of an age where particularly 1990 and 1996 were huge football tournaments for the World Cup Italia 1990 and obviously England Euros 96. And Gazza was a huge part of that. And he's like many great British people, and Irish people like George Best, for instance, the people we hold in high regard, they are also flawed human beings. And Gazza's struggled with addiction over the years, particularly to alcohol. Yeah. I hope and pray that this isn't alcohol. We don't know anything. And if it is alcohol, then I wish him all the best, because if he is back on alcohol, then he's likely to be dead very soon, because a man in his condition isn't going to live long like that. But he is an icon, right? He's an icon. We love these flawed characters within the UK. I'm sure they do around the rest of the world, but especially here. And he's also a comedian. He's a very, very funny guy. Mm-hmm. Every player and manager and coach and physio that's ever worked with Gazza has got an archive of hilarious anecdotes. I didn't realise he lived in Poole. Poole's not too far from where I live, actually. But I wish him well. It's a very sad story, and he's a huge football icon. He was probably arguably the greatest British player of his generation, almost certainly, but of all time, possibly. Yeah, I agree. And as you said, a great footballer, but also a great man, I'd argue, as well. I've had some dealings with him in journalism in recent years, you know, speaking to him about various stories. He's such a kind bloke. He's a kind-hearted, he's a gentle guy as well. And as you said, so funny. So many managers and former players have so many kind things to say about him, not least the famous or infamous dentist chair celebration. Yeah, super. What tournament was that? Was that Euro? 96, that was. 96, where they all laid down and sprayed the water. Because they all just went on a party before the Euros started, and they got drunk, and they famously did this dentist chair thing where they were feeding shots into the players as they laid back on a chair. Which is how we should prepare for everything, Ben. It's how I prepare for this show.
Live TV shows.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a dentist chair out the back, would you know? Samuel, I know we've already discussed this briefly, but thoughts on Gazza for new viewers?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, they don't make them like Gascoigne anymore. You know, we're at a generation where footballers live these like perfect lives, and you know they're doted upon in terms of like their food, their diet, their regime. But Paul Gascoigne, just as vulnerable as the rest of us, and obviously I wish him really well as somebody who's grown up supporting Rangers. You know, we probably got the best of him, I would argue, for a number of years.
Was he at Rangers before Spurs or after Spurs? After Spurs.
Yeah, and if again, as I said in the last part, if you can, and Paul said it very well there, if there's archives of clips of people talking about their experiences of him over the years as a player and as a friend, and no one's got a bad word to say, and obviously I think we all wish him really well. Yeah, indeed. I think he might have even been on GBNews at one point, maybe a few years ago. I think so, as far as I remember. I'll have a look, I'll confirm it with you. Right, stick with us on Ben Leo Tonight, late edition. I'll be joined next by political commentator David Moore to discuss tomorrow's front pages, including this one on the front page of the Daily Telegraph. Nigel Farage vowing if Reform get into government, they'll have 30,000 more coppers, 30,000 more prison spaces, 10,000 foreign criminals deported out of our prisons, and the worst of the UK's prisoners, such as Ian Huntley, maybe Roy Whiting, arguably should be in there as well, Axel Rudabakana. They'll all be shipped out to hellhole prison cells in El Salvador. Sounds good to me. Back in a tick.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
My eye this morning, because I say it all the time. You can't say gents at work. You're deemed to be not inclusive.
It's not inclusive. This comes from a tribunal which took place where a woman took umbrage at one of her bosses using the term in an email, dear gents. Well, you can't use the word gent. I mean, I wonder what it's like when you go to the gents now, whether you have to say going to the non-gender specific lavatories. It's a phrase. It shows that you're a bit old, they say. using the word gents now. I mean, I don't regard myself as old, although some may disagree with that.
This caught my eye as well, because one of your lovely presenters, who's on, I believe, at 6 o'clock, Michelle Dewberry, she very often says, you know, thank you, gents. I don't think she's
polite.
I don't think she's going to be changing. But it's when you look into this story, there was a little bit more to this than meets the eye, because this email was sent round by management in this insurance company, and one of the ladies who was on a list to be made redundant, along with men, used that email as evidence as to why there was discrimination going on. So there was a little bit more to this, and what the court said was that, you know, this was clumsy language, but this was managerial incompetence. And I don't think we should in any way take that as meaning it's got any wider.
So hang on, the court even said it's clumsy language?
The court said it was clumsy language.
In itself.
I mean, they shouldn't be using that language, but what I'm saying is I don't think this means that we have to all change our behaviour because of this one.
But what next, Anna?
Decision.
I've noticed a trend among, particularly in younger people, to call people guys, even women.
Yeah.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's Patrick Christys tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christys tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Ben Leo Tonight, late edition. I'm joined now by political commentator David Moore to go through some of the biggest stories in tomorrow's papers. David, good evening to you. Should we start with the Metro? Well, some other papers as well, but water. Talk to me about water.
So this has been a never-ending scandal with our water companies, and I'm also a councillor in an area covered by Thames Water. This is a company that has indebted £16.8 billion. And the Metro, the Times and the Guardian are all talking about the endless water scandal and ending this national disgrace of sewage in our rivers, these cover-ups, but also this water torture. And where is the regulators? We pay for all these quangos, all these regulators, and yet Ofwat must be held accountable. They're not doing the work. The price caps didn't work. So the papers are really sending a cross bipartisanship message here that our water companies are not doing enough, and they are giving us high prices for no return.
What do you make of Steve Reed's pledge? I think it was this morning on Camilla Tominey's GB News show that he would personally be held responsible for meeting targets of pollution targets for sewage discharges if they weren't halved by at least 2030, I think the figure was.
I think it's a huge pledge to make. It'd be good to see, you know, these water companies actually taking being held account, and their leadership as well. And you know, they pay billions in dividends to their shareholders, but it's billions of failures. So let's see some results.
And scrapping Ofwat, a good thing? Are they utterly toothless, Ofwat?
I think fewer regulators and fewer quangos, the better, Ben.
Yeah, including Ofcom. No, just joking. What about the front page? I didn't say. What about the front page of the Daily Telegraph? Nigel Farage, I will build more jails to clean up the streets. This is a big vow from Farage and Reform that if they do get into government, they will hire 30,000 more coppers, increase prison spaces by 30,000, and they'll do that by deporting just under 11,000 foreign criminals languishing in our jails, and additionally, which is my favourite, getting rid of the likes of Ian Huntley, Roy Whiting, Axel Rudabakana, the worst of the worst subhuman prisoners, by sending them to hellhole prisons in El Salvador.
I think it's big news. I think it's quite welcome news as well. I mean, the Telegraph obviously covered this, and I think he's not wrong. Violent offenders should not get early release. Those who committed the most heinous crimes should not be given lavish taxpayer-funded jollies. And I think what's clear in what Farage has said is, you know, I think you know, people are calling for law and order, and I think with the broken windows theory, I think this country is falling down the chaos of law and order. I think a lot of people from across the centre right of the political spectrum will welcome this update. I think what some people may say after reading these papers is, how is this going to be costed?
Yes.
Where are you going to put these prisons as well?
Where would you put the prisons, Davis, if you were in a Reform government?
Well, I think with the current Labour planning policies, you can put anything anywhere and destroy anything you want. But I think in terms of where you'd put them, maybe like Ascension Island or somewhere many thousands of miles away, so they can't take a boat and go across to Britain again.
Well, yeah, not a bad shout. I mean, on that note as well, what do you make of sending the most depraved prisoners in our jails to El Salvador?
I think it's not a bad policy. I think deterrence is everything, and I think, you know, we need to have very strong law and order policies. And I think if you're being told to be sent to a country where they treat their criminals in a very, well, let's just say a very stronger light, maybe they'll think again.
OK, one more with you then, David. Let's look at the Times tomorrow. Rachel Reeves is set to defy the left over calls for a wealth tax. I think the penny's finally dropped that if you keep taxing people into oblivion, they'll simply leave the country, not least because it's probably better weather elsewhere. And if you can pay zero tax in the likes of the UAE, why not?
Well, absolutely. As one great lady once said, the problem is with socialism is you always run out of other people's money. And Labour's soak the rich plans are already in retreat. Britain needs growth. It doesn't need envy. It doesn't need spite. And no matter how much Rachel Reeves tries to push through, in my view, these spiteful economic policies, they're going to backfire. And even Reeves knows punishing aspiration does not work. So, you know, this again, people are going to read these papers and once again just prove what Labour's doing to destroy our economy.
So it's the likes of Lord Kinnock, the former Labour leader, has suggested there should be a 2% wealth tax on anybody with assets worth more than £10 million. I mean, we've seen an exodus of millionaires already and a couple of billionaires in the UK. Why don't people like Lord Kinnock and the other commies who support that kind of thinking, why don't they get it that these people provide vast swathes of the tax income to this country, and that, you know, if you scare them off enough, if you take the mickey enough with them, they'll just leave?
Well, exactly. It's called socialist delusion, really. They think, you know, without learning about the Laffer curve and actually having more people in the country to pay tax at a lower rate, the revenues increase. But it doesn't work like that for them. It's policies of envy. It's policies of spite. It's like the 20% VAT. It's just like the inheritance tax on our farmers. It's just policies of spite. And Lord Kinnock has, you know, completely lost the plot, just like he did before. And that's why he never was Prime Minister.
All right, Samuel Sweek is here as part of the panel. He's got a question for you, David, if you don't mind.
Well, I mean, it makes it sound like an old lefty meeting, but it's more of a comment than a question. But, I mean, you know, you talk there about socialist delusion. I mean, but, you know, we're not all from, like, Planet Capitalist, where we still believe that trickle-down economics work. And, frankly, you know, we say we don't want greed, we don't want envy. We don't want... the greed comes from the people at the very top who have got billions and billions, whilst people are queuing up for food banks. Frankly, asking them to pay what is, for them, actually a very reasonable and affordable amount is absolutely... I mean, there shouldn't be a revolutionary policy to anybody.
So you support a wealth tax, 2% on anyone with assets over 10 million?
Absolutely, I do, yeah.
Sounds like you are a raging communist, aren't you?
Ideology over pragmatism is what that is.
David, David, what's your response to Samuel?
I'm a member of Gen Z, and a lot of Gen Z, especially, you know, after they graduate from university, they're paying basically effective rate of 50% tax. And meanwhile, all the people with a lot of money, they tend to leave the country and offshore because they have the capital to do so, meaning that the lower middle class and many other people across the country have to pick up that bill. So it's not about case of, oh, woohoo for capitalism. It's just a case of we're all being shafted by Labour here, no matter what.
I would put it to you, David, that money earned or made in the UK should be taxed in the UK. Do you agree with closing these tax loopholes that people with that huge wealth are able to take advantage of?
I just think people should pay their way, but it should be fair, and I don't think that half my income should go to a quango or some bloated government body that does absolutely nothing.
But the Cayman Islands is fine, yeah?
People can move money around, that's the end of the day, but I'm going to stay here and pay my taxes.
Even if they made it in the UK using UK Labour.
And to be honest, most of these loopholes have actually now been shut down. Hence, you've got a load of people leaving the country.
OK.
David can't move their money anywhere else.
Well, yeah, indeed, yeah. I mean, yeah. David, thank you very much. Appreciate your time tonight. Hopefully catch up with you next week. Thank you, David. Should we talk about this, Paul? What's your take on it? Rachel Reeves, did she have a portrait of a famous communist in her office? I can't remember who it was. I'll find out who it was. But she seems to be going against her commie tendencies, and she realises that a wealth tax...
Thatcher, wasn't it? She had a picture of Thatcher.
No, I'll Google it. Let's have a look. Rachel Reeves. What about this? She's defying calls from the left. She's standing strong, Paul.
I mean, Rachel Reeves standing strong. Well, we'll see. We'll see. I don't think those two things go together too well historically. A wealth tax, for me, is just a non-starter. I mean, the ugly truth is that some of the brightest and best are also the wealthiest. This country needs... It's true. I mean, I know it's... You know, I'm not someone who comes from a wealthy background by any shape or form. However, there is... We want to encourage people to accumulate wealth because we want to encourage growth. I want to see our government accumulate wealth by acting as if they were wealthy people who are intelligent people using the best and the brightest from around the country. The Labour cabinet is not the best and brightest in the room, let alone the country. So I want to see the country behave like capitalists. I want to see them have the mental strength of a capitalist and then use that in maybe some socialist ways. I also believe in the NHS, Sam. So I've no problem with some socialist ideas, but the idea that we would tax the wealthiest and brightest and best out of the country, to me, is ludicrous at a time when we are on our knees.
Okay, but if they can leave, that's fine. They're assets that are made in the UK should not be able to leave.
Samuel, I can't believe you can say it's fine if the billionaires, the millionaires leave. It's like, yeah, that's fine. See you later.
I don't bemoan the loss of any billionaires, by the way, from our shores. I mean, frankly, in a time where there is such extreme poverty in this country, that the idea that a billionaire should exist is completely immoral.
Sam, it's not about for me, it's not about the billionaires that exist now.
So just to come back on your point there, we are living in a capitalist society, and that's why we have so many people queuing up for bloody food banks.
So the top 10% of taxpayers paid 60% of all tax income in 2023.
And how rich were they after that still?
Well, that's not the point.
It is the point.
Sam, if you scare them away, if you scare all those people away, you're losing 60% of HMRC's income from taxation. 60%. Can you imagine the state of the country? These people don't need to be here. They are very mobile.
They will leave.
Sam, these people are very mobile.
Their assets cannot leave.
I think it's also quite short-sighted to just focus on the people that have made it as billionaires now. These successful people, very easy targets. I understand it. They've got enough wealth to solve poverty across... You can take every homeless person out of London and put them in a nice home. I understand that. It's not about that. It's about ambition. It's about squashing ambition. No, Sam, I'm going to finish, honestly. Let me finish, mate.
But people go to work and they try and aspire and they try and have better lives for their families, and they remain in poverty.
We need an environment, an incubation environment, in which people, the billionaires of tomorrow, that are now tech geniuses or whatever they might be, that are just coming out of university, have the greatest idea, know that this is the country in which to build that wealth. Because if they don't build the wealth in this country, they will take that idea and go somewhere else. Look at countries across Europe. There are loads of countries across Europe that really, really harness the genius of these people and keep that wealth in the country, and they don't hold it against them.
Chloe, last word to you.
I admire your desire to tackle poverty, but the reality is that people who are capitalists or people who are socialists, we all hate poverty and we want it to come to an end. And I understand your frustration when you see there are people who are billionaires and millionaires and are not giving all their money away to charity. But let's be honest.
I mean, they do.
So two things. First of all, capitalism has brought so many people in the world out of poverty. Look at places like China. That is just the facts. It's not the case that capitalism throws everyone into poverty. It's quite the opposite. And second of all, if someone makes, say, 10 million quid a year and they pay 1 million a year in taxes, you may be frustrated. Oh, they've still got 9 million quid. That's way too much money. But that 1 million quid a year, that's probably, you know, more money than most of us have ever paid in our lives to HMRC, right? So to kick them out of the country by taxing them to death would be a huge loss. And things like capital gains tax, Rachel Reeves thought that it was going to be an easy job to raise the money she needed to, and she came to power. She thought, oh, we'll just do a big hike in capital gains tax. But what happens with that is even if just a few very rich people leave the country, it has a massive impact on revenue. So,
and they just don't liquidate their assets. They say, OK, well, I've got some stocks or shares here or some investments in some gold here. I just won't liquidate it. Or I'll go and liquidate it in the likes of Portugal where there's 0% capital gains for certain people. It's just, you know, these people are very mobile. They're not like you and I where we're constrained by, you know, visas and different loopholes and regulations. These are super rich people with connections all around the world. They are very, very mobile. They don't have to stay in the UK. They don't have to. So, you know, scare enough of them off and you'll see what happens. Right, stick with us on Ben Leo Tonight Late Edition. JD Vance, the Vice President, is coming on holiday to the UK with his young family. Can you guess where he's going? You may have seen this already because I mentioned it on the show last night, but if you're just tuning in for the first time this weekend, try and guess and let me know on gbnews.com/you'll say where the Vice President, JD Vance, is coming in the UK on his family holiday. Back in just a tick.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
It's a bit of a mixed picture across Europe over the next couple of days, with plenty of showers around across parts of France, even northern parts of Italy too. Maybe even Madeira and the Canary Islands catching 1 or 2 isolated showers. But for parts of Spain, Portugal, Italy, even parts of Greece, there's plenty of sunshine on offer. And the southern Mediterranean seeing plenty of that sunshine, though perhaps a little breezy. Temperatures generally in the low to mid 30s and similar through the outlook as well. Plenty of sunshine on the cards and feeling very warm.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. After an unsettled and showery weekend, not a lot will change as we go into Monday, so further heavy downpours and some persistent spells of rain, courtesy of this area of low pressure that's not really moving anywhere over the next day or two, so it's going to maintain that unsettled flavour to the weather with some showers or longer spells of rain. For Sunday evening, the heaviest rain and most persistent rain will be across southern parts of Scotland, moving into Northern Ireland through the early hours as well. So it's here where we're most concerned about some flooding. There are warnings in place, so do check our website or app for further details on those. Heavy showers across the southeast of England as well later in the night, but not a cold night. Temperatures, generally speaking, holding up in the mid to high teens Celsius. So for Monday, it's going to be an unsettled start to the new working week, particularly across the southeast of England, where there'll be some pretty heavy downpours moving in from the south, so some thunderstorms already perhaps possible here. Sunny and dry conditions across parts of the Midlands, eastern parts of Wales, but further north and west, we run into that heavier rain for parts of Northern Ireland, western and southwestern Scotland, with some rain also across the far northeast of Scotland too. So not many places escaping with much in the way of dry weather first thing, and it's going to stay pretty changeable and unsettled through the course of Monday as well. That rain lingers across parts of western Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales and parts of southwest England for much of the day. Further east, it's a mixture of sunny spells and sudden heavy downpours, some thundery downpours too, some hail and gusty winds, but nonetheless in between the showers, in the sunshine, it should feel quite warm with temperatures in the mid-20s. For Tuesday, we're not expecting it to be quite as unsettled. Having said that, it will be fairly cloudy. There will be some showers around in places and perhaps some longer spells of rain across western parts of Scotland and northwest England. But despite that, it should still feel fairly warm in any brightness. A changeable picture though as we go through the rest of the week. A lot of cloud around in general, but in any sunshine, it will still feel pretty warm.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back to Ben Leo Tonight, late edition. Now, a queer dance artist who attended a £48,000 a year school was behind a pro-Palestine protest at the Royal Opera House. That's according to the Daily Telegraph. The audience for Verdi's opera, the second Travorte, was stunned on Saturday evening when a member of the cast unfurled a Palestine flag during the curtain call. Footage from the incident showed a stage manager trying and failing to snatch the flag from the performer. Here we are, if you're watching on television now, who was still in costume as a demon. The Telegraph understands the cast member behind the protest is Daniel Perry, a self-described queer dance artist, choreographer and DJ. And Chloe, you just mentioned in the break another pro-Palestine protester.
Yeah, I believe it was one of the Palestine Action supporters was caught wearing a £6,000 dress to a ball.
Interesting.
And you know, I'm not someone to say, oh, people from a rich background aren't allowed to have an opinion, but it does seem to be a running theme that all these people, or a lot of them from Just Stop Oil and then Palestine Action after Just Stop Oil stopped protesting, a lot of them, you notice them speak on the news when you put a microphone in front of them, they all sound very, very posh.
Samuel, why is that?
I mean, some people may be surprised that some people who do have a wealthy background can actually be decent people, but...
Well, OK, so why do we rarely... I've gone to a lot of these protests. I went to one last Saturday. I go to a lot of Just Stop Oil protests, and in actual fact, I clocked a couple of the pro-Palestine Action protesters last weekend at Just Stop Oil protests from the year before. So they seem to like going on various different protests for different causes. But I don't see working class, your typical working class people I'm familiar with on these kind of protests. Why is that?
OK, I go to these protests and I'm working class.
You're working class?
Yeah.
OK, but there is a theme. Look, this person went to a 48 grand a year school. Chloe mentioned a case there where they're wearing 6 grand gowns. They all, by everyone's fair-minded observation, are middle class do-gooders, some would describe them as. They all have a similar profile. Why do you think that is?
I don't really understand the framing of the question. I mean, they're showing they've got a set of values like standing up against genocide and climate change. Like, I don't understand the framing of the question.
I think it's hard to say on Palestine exactly what motivates it, but I think with Just Stop Oil,
standing against
these are not people who are struggling to pay their energy bills each month.
Okay.
So they're not. It's all good and easy for them to say, "Oh, just stop oil, just don't have any fossil fuels whatsoever. It's okay if the energy bills absolutely skyrocket. Everyone will just deal with it because they're not used to struggling with having to pay their energy bills each month."
Paul, any thoughts on this? Not really a funny subject, really, is it?
No, there aren't many, are there, at the moment? But and I don't want to make this funny either, because obviously it's a serious subject from both sides. But it's a prescribed view, isn't it? I think it'd be hard. Find me a queer dance artist that isn't pro-Palestine, and then we'll have a discussion. I don't think that it's prescribed amongst a cohort of people that just follow the crowd, OK? There's not a lot of critical thinking going in there. I'm not denying anything Sam says, by the way, but I'm saying there's no critical thinking going into what they're saying or doing, and they're just following the crowd. And what I'd like to see is somebody in their position, somebody in a position like that who can stand on a stage like that in front of lots of people, have a differing opinion. Show us that it's not nuanced at all. The idea that Gaza is always the victim is ludicrous. Sam, you must see this. I mean, this is a country essentially run by Hamas, a country that voted in Hamas. To say that Hamas and that country are in no way to blame for anything is a mental illness in itself.
But I mean, are you advocating collective punishment of the entire Palestine?
No, I'm not advocating that.
There you go.
But that's the diversion technique. That's the whataboutery, Sam. That's not. Genocide, dead babies, all these things. So what? Let's get to the crux of the matter. If you asked that dancer why they supported, they'd probably parrot the same things you said. They wouldn't know anything different.
That is such a good point, and I had this same conversation with somebody last week at the pro-Palestine Action protest in central London. I said, how can you come down here and condemn Israel for killing kids and babies, which everybody can do? You know, I'm sure they don't intentionally mean it, but kids and babies have died. Whether you believe the Hamas-run health authorities or not, kids and babies have died. Fine, condemn Israel for that. But you have to also condemn Hamas on the same side. You cannot say, yeah, but. Do you condemn Hamas?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think
you are a rarity in that case.
The slaughter of civilians. I mean, there is a long and historic nuance to what has led to this situation. But no, I do not support Hamas killing civilians. No, but also with that said, because I like to apply humanitarian and international law consistently, Israel for the last year, nearly 2 years, bombing the living daylights out of Gaza and killing like 60,000 civilians at very least is unconscionable. Absolutely unconscionable to support that. There is no justification for it.
Yeah, lots of the people I spoke to last weekend, they were absolute jokers. They would refuse to condemn Hamas, but at the same time bang on about Israel and dead babies. And
you got called a terrorist yesterday.
I got called a. Well, that was like I got called a terrorist myself.
Well, grannies outside of Truro Cathedral were getting called terrorists now.
Strange people. Right, let's look at this one on the Telegraph, page 4. Angela Rayner's proposal for an official definition of Islamophobia would apparently hand Reform UK and Nigel Farage a 100-seat majority at the expense of Labour. That's according to a new poll. The Deputy Prime Minister's appointed a panel to draw up a new definition of Islamophobia to be applied across the public sector, despite fears it would prevent politicians speaking up about Asian grooming gangs. Now, this new survey, Paul, of 2,000 people, not a small one, found that Labour would poll significantly worse among the public if they're told about the Islamophobia ban. 100 seats to Reform. Does that surprise you?
Not at all. And it doesn't matter whether you believe it's a populist wave or that it's an uneducated wave of populism. It doesn't matter. Islamophobia is not a thing.
No.
OK, no one... If you're scared of Islam or Islamists or Islamist terrorists, that's fair game, because they wander into arenas and blow kids up.
Yeah, it's not
If you're not scared of that, then you're a psychopath.
Yeah.
So that is perfectly acceptable to be scared of. This doesn't mean that everybody's scared of every Muslim that walks down the street, but the idea that people cannot say that Islamists blow up children and that be now considered racist in some way, Islam not being a race, of course, is ludicrous, which is why a party like Reform can build such a base, because people aren't stupid. We talk down to working class people. Large majority of Reform voters are working class people. We talk down to them every single day, and it's always people that elevate themselves to a position of virtue that seem to feel completely free to tell these people they don't understand what's going on in their lives.
And Chloe, do we even need an Islamophobia definition? Surely they're protected anyway under existing equality laws, no?
So I don't like the term Islamophobia, because that suggests that you are... that's outlawing criticising the religion. They were talking about Islam there. You can use the term anti-Muslim hatred, but we absolutely should not have a definition for Islamophobia, because I think, quite rightly, people are very concerned that this could shut down, for example, debate on the grooming gangs and identifying the link between, you know, Pakistani Muslim communities and these horrific crimes that have been committed. What's interesting about this poll that's been done, yes, it's only 2,000 people, but what it shows is only a jump from before you tell people and after you tell people about whether there's going to be an Islamophobia law, of Reform support going up from only 29 to 30%, yet that leads to a huge jump in the number of seats, because Labour, in so many of their seats, they only won them just on the cusp.
Yeah,
so a tiny change in voting intention can destroy Labour.
Yep, 100 seats, apparently. That's page 4 of The Telegraph tomorrow. Stick with us on Ben Leo Tonight, late edition. Donald Trump's heading to the UK next week, and, yeah, we want to know what you think about the protests that are in store. And also, JD Vance, the Vice President, he's heading to the UK. I've asked if you can guess where he's going. You may know already from last night's show, but some of you have said Bognor, some of you have said Skegness, some of you have said somewhere in Kent, maybe Margate. The answer will be revealed next. Stick with us.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
only on GB News.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christys Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christys Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Welcome back to Ben Leo Tonight, late edition. Now, I'm very excited because next Friday, Donald Trump, President Trump, will arrive in Scotland to tour his 3 golf courses. He's opening a new one in Aberdeen. And he's also going to have an informal meeting with the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer. Vice President JD Vance is also planning a visit to Britain next month. He's planning to bring his wife and their 3 children to the Cotswolds for a personal holiday. So despite the American admin's concerns about free speech in Britain, is this a good sign for the special relationship? I'm delighted to be joined now by US Republican commentator Jennifer Ewing. Jennifer, good evening. Thanks for your company. First of all, let's start with the President's visit to Scotland. I spoke to a Labour type earlier, a Labour peer, who said he shouldn't be coming. It's costing the police too much money, so on and so on. And I made the point, look, he's got businesses in Scotland. He provides many, many jobs to Scotland. He's giving a lot of money, or contributing a lot of money to the GDP through these businesses. I think it's a good thing, no, that he's willing to come here outside of an official state visit to spend time here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm biased, clearly. You know, I'm a spokesperson for Republicans Overseas UK, but I'd be curious to know if that same minister would be saying the same thing if it were a Democrat politician.
Of course they wouldn't.
President Trump has businesses here. He has every right to come visit, and I think it's great. I think it's great for the so-called special relationship that both him and, as you mentioned, Vice President Vance is coming as well. So they could go anywhere, and they're choosing the United Kingdom, which is good.
Jennifer, what do you make of the fact that during President Trump's state visit to the UK next month, it comes very conveniently the day after Parliament heads off to their summer break, so he won't get the chance to address MPs in the Commons? Do you think that's deliberate?
You know what, Ben, I don't believe in coincidences, but more importantly, I actually don't think it's going to be that big of a deal for President Trump. I've heard the way that the UK media has played this and kind of trying to stir it up a little bit into a bigger story. However, if you look at the media in the United States, they're making a big deal about the fact that this is the only president who's had a second state visit. He obviously had one with the Queen earlier, so they're making a huge deal out of that. And obviously he'll stay at Winfield House, which I know you know, because the last time I saw you, Ben, we were together there. So that's a fantastic place to stay. So no, the United States media is making this into a big deal for President Trump. Nothing negative about Parliament.
There will be protests, obviously, despite Trump's successes. You know, some people just hate the man because it's Donald Trump and Orange Man bad. Do you think that's going to bother him coming into London and seeing protests? I mean, last time we had the infamous stupid juvenile blimp that Sadiq Khan gave the go-ahead to.
You know what? I think he'll probably use that to continue the conversation that the United States and the United Kingdom are having about free speech. And aren't people in the United Kingdom lucky that we live in a country where you can protest not only your own government but other people's government? So no, I think his ego will be able to handle any sort of Sadiq Khan balloons that are flying around.
Good stuff. Jennifer, let me talk to you about a plan that Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, is said to be mooting. She wants to sell, reportedly, £5 billion worth of seized Bitcoin in the UK from criminals in a bid to plug the black hole in the budget. Germany did something similar last year. Germany sold its entire treasury of Bitcoin at around, as far as I remember, $54,000. So that was about 8 months ago. Bitcoin is now worth $118,000. So they've done a Gordon Brown, basically. They sold the gold at the bottom and Bitcoin has since surged. Do you think this is a good idea for Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, to be selling the UK's Bitcoin?
Well, Ben, as a hodler, which means you buy Bitcoin and hold on to it as long as you can. No, I do not think it's a good idea. We've heard the the Secretary of the Treasury, Emma Reynolds, I believe, several months ago, saying that unlike the United States of America, that's planning a Bitcoin reserve, that the United Kingdom does not have any plans for that. I know places like Bitcoin Policy UK and other advocacy groups have tried to get in touch for years with the government and say, hey, can we help educate you? Can we talk about this? So you do have a plan. And you're right to point out Germany. I mean, they must be very upset with their market timing in this, and same thing with Gordon Brown's gold sale. So I'm not even sure if it's legal, because as you mentioned, a lot of the Bitcoin that we're talking about that the United Kingdom holds is actually seized. So a lot of the victims of those crimes are trying to get that Bitcoin back. So we're not even sure this is legal.
Yeah, no, interesting point, which I hadn't heard before, actually. And, of course, Donald Trump in America, you mentioned they're creating the Bitcoin reserve. He won a good chunk of the sort of libertarian vote, not least for freeing or pardoning Ross Ulbricht, who was the founder of the Silk Road website. I know at the start of Silk... For viewers who aren't aware what Silk Road is, it was the eBay/Amazon of selling illicit, illegal drugs. It kind of kick-started Bitcoin. He was serving 2 life sentences without parole. President Trump pardoned him when he got into office. He kept to his word. But President Trump won a big section of the libertarian vote with his freeing of Ross Ulbricht and, indeed, his pro-crypto agenda.
Well, you're exactly right. And just to give your viewers some context, there are about 50 million people, probably a little more in the last few weeks, people in the United States who can vote, who hold some kind of Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. That turned into a very big voting bloc. Even I know people who can't stand President Trump, but they said if he's going to bring in some regulation to this industry, which is so important, then I'll vote for him. And let's hope that the United Kingdom can follow suit, because it's we can earn tax money from it and find jobs, all sorts of things, freedom of transaction.
Yeah, indeed. Jennifer, thank you so much. Really appreciate your company, and hopefully we'll catch up soon. Have a good week. Don't forget, you can stay with us all day on GB News, not just on TV, but on radio and on your smart speaker. To listen to us on your smart speaker, just say, play GB News on TuneIn. Thank you so much for your company this weekend, viewers at home. I really appreciate you. I'm back Wednesday next week with Britain's Newsroom. Thank you, Samuel, Chloe and Paul. I'll catch you then. Good night. Sweet dreams.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. After an unsettled and showery weekend, not a lot will change as we go into Monday, so further heavy downpours and some persistent spells of rain, courtesy of this area of low pressure that's not really moving anywhere over the next day or two, so it's going to maintain that unsettled flavour to the weather with some showers or longer spells of rain. For Sunday evening, the heaviest rain and most persistent rain will be across southern parts of Scotland, moving into Northern Ireland through the early hours as well. So it's here where we're most concerned about some flooding. There are warnings in place, so do check our website or app for further details on those. Heavy showers across the southeast of England as well later in the night, but not a cold night. Temperatures, generally speaking, holding up in the mid to high teens Celsius. So for Monday, it's going to be an unsettled start to the new working week, particularly across the southeast of England, where there'll be some pretty heavy downpours moving in from the south, so some thunderstorms already perhaps possible here. Sunny and dry conditions across parts of the Midlands, eastern parts of Wales, but further north and west, we run into that heavier rain for parts of Northern Ireland, western and southwestern Scotland, with some rain also across the far northeast of Scotland too. So not many places escaping with much in the way of dry weather first thing, and it's going to stay pretty changeable and unsettled through the course of Monday as well. That rain lingers across parts of western Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales and parts of southwest England for much of the day. Further east, it's a mixture of sunny spells and sudden heavy downpours, some thundery downpours too, some hail and gusty winds, but nonetheless in between the showers, in the sunshine, it should feel quite warm with temperatures in the mid-20s. For Tuesday, we're not expecting it to be quite as unsettled. Having said that, it will be fairly cloudy. There will be some showers around in places and perhaps some longer spells of rain across western parts of Scotland and northwest England. But despite that, it should still feel fairly warm in any brightness. A changeable picture, though, as we go through the rest of the week. A lot of cloud around in general, but in any sunshine, it will still feel pretty warm.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine having an extra £1,000 to spend each week for an entire year. £54,321 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to spend however you like. £54,321 in cash could be landing in your bank account this year. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
It's Patrick Christys tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christys tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
What those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You can't have a broken record, you say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, this is Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. On the show tonight, Labour are going to scrap plans to ban sex education for those under 9 years old, possibly paving the way for gender identity into our schools, or continuance of that. The battle over trans swimmers at Hampstead Heath is set to go all the way to the High Court. Venice Allen joins us for all of the latest about that. A radical new proposal has suggested stripping defendants of jury trials as the government looks to tackle the chronic court backlog. But is this the right solution? And could Angela Rayner and Labour's Islamophobia law hand reform a 100-seat majority, as pollsters warn could set off a tinderbox among working-class voters? The latest set to free speech and more as Brits feel like they can no longer speak their minds. And we've got some comedians